guys. So today we're going to be talking about the beginning of the American Revolution. So it's going to take us several videos to get through this. So we're going to be talking about this for a little while. But today we're going to be talking about how things got started. Last time we talked about all of the reasons the Americans were angry, and taxes and the new rules, all of those things. So over the next few years in history, they're going to start writing a bunch of letters. Now, to us, it seems sort of silly to write an angry letter, but for them, it was like their equivalent of writing an angry text message. So I'm going to be comparing this a lot to like when you are having an argument with someone and you're sending them messages instead of talking to them in person, because that's more relatable to you than writing angry letters. I apologize if you can hear that dinging. It's been going on for the last 10 minutes, and every time I wait for it to stop and then start recording again, it starts again. So November 4th, 1772. The first thing I have here is committees of correspondence. This is a really fancy word. It just means that it's a group of people who are getting together to have meetings about sending letters. So they send Britain a list of things they disliked and a list of things they were mad about. Now this is kind of like when you get mad at someone and you're talking to your group of friends. Maybe you're in a group chat, maybe there are multiple of you, and you're talking and you're discussing all of the things you're mad about. That's basically what's happening here. The way I like to remember this and think about this is it's kind of like America and Great Britain were in a relationship, they were dating, and now they're breaking up. So America is mad about all of the things that Great Britain did. And America is talking to their friends and is talking about Great Britain did this and Great Britain did that. And I don't like this about Great Britain. They're dumb. So they're like talking to their friends, which is the other Americans, about all the things they don't like about Britain. So here's the list that they made. I'm not gonna ask you questions about these specific things, but I want you to see what they're mad about. So the first thing they're mad about is being taxed without having any say. They call it taxation without representation. They're really angry about the fact that they were taxed and nobody asked them if they could pay for it. The second thing is they say that collecting money through this kind of taxation should be illegal. You shouldn't even be allowed to do this. The third thing is tax collectors are supposed to be voted on by the people. So the people in the town are supposed to vote for who's going to collect the taxes. But instead, the king started making his own people tax collectors. And the people were really angry about this too. Number 5, soldiers shouldn't be allowed to come make people feed and shelter them. And then in parentheses it says they would come live in people's homes. So the people were really angry about that. We talked about that last time. Number 6, town councils stopped being allowed to meet because the king didn't like them. So the king didn't like individual towns being able to govern themselves. So he stopped letting them have local government. Number 7, the king uses tax money to pay people to run the colony's government, not to pay for the war like he said he would. So the king said that the reason they were being taxed was to pay for the French and Indian War. The Americans were okay with that because they understood that when you fight a war, it costs money. You have to hire soldiers and give them guns and give them ammunition and give them food and give them clothes and all of the things that they need. So they understood why they were being taxed, but they were angry because the king was using most of the money to hire people to make the colonies follow the king's rules instead of using the money just to pay for the war like he said he would. So number 8, people didn't have the right to a fair trial for their crimes. So if you got in trouble during this time and you had to go to court, instead of going to court in your town like you normally do, they would have to, a judge all the way in Great Britain across the ocean would look at your case and decide if you were guilty or not. A lot of the Americans felt like this was very unfair. Number 9, some colonists were accused of being traitors because they protested, and they were sent back to Britain for their trial and usually lost. So what this means is that people who protested were sometimes taken to jail, sent to Great Britain so that someone could decide if they were guilty or not, and then they were kept in Great Britain in jail and not allowed to come back to America where their family was. Number 10, the British government was trying to create a church to help govern the people and tell them how to live. Now, if you remember a few weeks ago when we started talking about this, one of the reasons a lot of people came to North America in general was because they wanted to have freedom of religion. They wanted to be able to go to church and worship however they wanted to. So the Americans get really upset about this because most of them came to the colonies so that they could start their own churches and they could do church the way they wanted to do it. Number 11, the British government told colonists where they could and couldn't settle. So this is the proclamation we were talking about the other day, where they told them they couldn't live on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains. And people already lived there. All right, so these are all of the reasons the colonists are angry. Now I want you to think about this. Are these good reasons to be upset, or are the colonists being like silly and kind of dramatic? Take a minute and think about it and write down your answer for me. All right, let's move on to our next thing. If you need more time, feel free to pause. So the next thing that happened are called the Intolerable Acts. Now, intolerable means that something's not fair, it's not tolerable, it's not something you'll put up with. So it's a set of laws made to punish the Americans for protesting and for rebelling. So this is because they're in trouble, basically. Britain wants America to say they're sorry. And America decides that they're going to go to war with Great Britain instead of saying that they're sorry. So Great Britain says, I just want you to apologize. And America says, fight me. Because America, like we talked about the other day, gets upset really easily and is upset a lot. So there are 4 different things that the British did to control the American citizens. The first thing they did was they closed the port in Boston so that the colonists could not trade or move their supplies by water. So a port is the place where ships are. You know what a port is because Puerto Escondido means hidden port. You know this one. So they wanted to be able to trade with other countries and they wanted to be able to move things, but they weren't allowed to because the port was closed. The next thing, Massachusetts, which is a state, had their local government taken away completely, and a new government of all British men came in and took over. Number 3, all trials were sent to British judges. We talked about that a little bit in the list of things they were angry about. So normally, an American judge who lived in your town, who knew you as a person, who understood what happened, was your judge, because then they could be fair, because they knew you as a person. They knew if you were nice or if you were mean. They knew the situation. They knew what happened. But now they were sent all the way to Great Britain on the other side of the ocean, and somebody who did not know you, who did not know the situation, was suddenly in charge of if you were guilty or not. And then number 4, we've talked about this a few times now. People had to feed and shelter soldiers. So, think about this. Do these 4 laws seem very fair to you? Do they seem like good things for the colonists, or do they seem like bad things? Take a minute and decide what you think for me. All right, so there's no right or wrong answer to that. It's your opinion. I just want to see what you guys think about these things. So if you need more time, take some time, answer the question, and then we'll move on. So the next thing is the First Continental Congress. So on September 5th, 1774, 12 out of the 13 colonies, so all the colonies except for one, got together to write a letter telling Britain that they were not sorry and they were done being British. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to organize troops to make an army so that they could fight Great Britain. They wanted to be completely independent from Great Britain, and they wanted to be their own country. This was a really big deal because becoming your own country is scary because there's a lot of stuff you have to do that you've never done before, but also you usually have to fight whoever was in charge of your country beforehand. So they know that they're going to have to go to war and fight Great Britain. So we're going to talk more about this next week, but I want you to go ahead and know what the first 2 battles are. So the first 2 battles of the Revolutionary War happened on April 19th, 1775. They're called the Battles of Lexington and Concord. Next week, we're going to talk more about what happens at these battles, and we'll watch a few videos to help us understand a little bit better. So for today, make sure that you answer your response questions, and then tomorrow we'll have some questions about what we've done this week. All right? I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.